Evening everyone, it's Ian from DIY Home and Gardening. As you can probably see through the blinds, particularly dark outside. It is the 2nd of November and I thought it'd be a good opportunity to do a roundup for the year really, because we are at that stage now where pretty much all the bits that you've sown throughout the year are all coming to an end, or coming to an end, signifying the end of the seasons, shall we say. And the bits that are remaining in the ground now, or that you'll be planting, are definitely going to be for winter use, and then for continuation for next year, such as things like your onions and your garlic. So I thought I would go through my little book and just show you what I've grown this year and maybe have a little chat about it. So if I turn the camera around and we'll have a little look. Okay, so we are in the study. This is normally where my wife resides, but anyway, good opportunity I thought to take stock of what I've grown this year, successes, fails, and then plans for next year. So what I have done throughout the year is I've kind of made a bit of a note. So obviously the year, and at home is the plants literally at that where I've grown them at home, as opposed to on the allotment. So if we start with tomatoes, so my plan was I'd grow 5 of each of the varieties. So we got Super Marmont, which is a beefsteak, Giant Tree, beefsteak type, Big Daddy, beefsteak, Gigantomo, beefsteak. Then we've got Roma and San Marzano, which are both plum types. Crimson Crush I wanted to grow because it has blight resistant, which I lost all my tomatoes to last year. Black Opal, because I thought I'd give it a go for the novelty of the colour. Golden Sphere, same. It's meant to be a sweet one with good disease resistance, high yielding, bite size, just because it's got an amazing taste. So I wanted to add that back in. Sun Gold, again, well, got told to grow it really, but in actual fact, that number is wrong. I only had one of Sun Gold, and I got given Sun Gold. Grafted, I got given one plant which snapped, and that gave me propagation material for another. And then I had some tomatoes from, well, one tomato from Sainsbury's, which my son sowed the seed of, and we got about 3. So in actual fact, that the original thought was 60 plants. We've ended up with about 60 plants, and we did have a crazy amount of fruit, as you can imagine. Things like the Giant Tree, they got 9.5 feet tall, so they did produce a lot, and we used a good proportion of the tomatoes actually either straight as sort of salads, or made a lot of tomato soup. So the freezer's chock-a-block with tomato soup. Plan for next year, well, they'll be revealed as we get towards the back end. So what I would say, the one that we saved the seed from, the tomato that came from Sainsbury's, they grew easily, they formed the tomato fruits, but it wasn't till the very end of the year that they actually ripened, which led me to suspect that actually it's a greenhouse variety. So that is one that won't be bothering with again. Same with the grafted. Whilst they're great plants, the the small size of the tomato made them a little bit, well, a bit pointless in some respects, where you'd have to eat them off the plant or in a salad. Sun Gold did have a good flavour, but again, probably too small for my liking. Bite size was absolutely amazing, so sweet. Yeah, pick them off the plant. They hardly ever made it to the kitchen because they were that nice. Golden Sphere produced an abundance of fruit. Good flavour, not fantastic flavour, but good flavour. Black Opal, aside from the novelty value of it, I wouldn't bother with it again. And I think I've got some seeds still, but I probably won't bother sowing it. Crimson Crush, good variety, nothing special. Probably will still grow it just on the basis of you never can tell if blight will strike. So I've always grown Roma as my go-to plum tomato. I grew San Marzano because it is meant to be the best for creating authentic passata, Italian type passata, and the flavour is amazing. However, they do take a lot longer than Roma to ripen, so I probably will still grow both of those varieties. Gigantomo. My son bought the seed of that. He wanted to grow the world's biggest tomato, which is not really possible on a normal scale, but not without stripping off all the other tomatoes from the plant. It's a nice tomato, but it's not as nice as Super Marmont or even Big Daddy. Giant Tree, again, good for novelty value, had pinkish red tomatoes, but very watery. So maybe I'll grow it, not sure. Cucumbers. So grew these in the greenhouse. Planted them up into, what I would say, so this lot, they are all grown in 12-litre pots. So all container grown. Watered every day, fed every week, alternate feeding. So 1 week fed chicken pellets, the following week fed with a liquid feed, and then just alternated throughout the season. Started feeding at the point of flowering. Cucumbers, they were grown in troughs, 3 plants per trough. So grew Burpler's Tasty Green, which was really good. Well, it is always a good cropper, a little bit spiky, but it's very nice. Marketeer, again, so reliable. Crystal Apple, very nice. It is, as the name would suggest, it's an apple shape, and my boys love it just because of the fact that you can literally pick it and eat it that way. So those ones I've grown before. I got sent by Thompson Morgan some Diva seed and some Swing seed, both of which are classed as sort of the lunchbox type cucumbers because they are smaller. They haven't got any spines to them. Really good. I've got to say they are really good producers, croppers. Definitely worth growing. Yeah, so they are worthwhile. And then cucamelons, which it turns out that this year being the second year, I'm the only person that actually eats the things, and they do go crazy, so end up taking over the greenhouse. So the only reason that I think the cucumbers, well, we had a lot of cucumbers, but the only reason that they then started to suffer was we had a heat wave in the UK, which kind of was the June-July period, and they started really suffering with powdery mildew, and that really knocked them. So that took a little while of production, and following that they then got spider mite. So that was the point at which I decided just to cut the plants down and call time on it. Also grown at home, got given some melon Minnesota midget, all 5 germinated, no problem. I grew 3 into a trough in the greenhouse, and they went in the same area as these cucumbers, and then grew 2 of the other plants into 10-litre containers. And it was actually the ones in the containers that did better than the ones in the greenhouse. And we had quite a few fruits from them, not massive fruits, but kind of, I don't know, larger than cricket ball size anyway. So they were really good, really flavoursome. Would I grow them again? Probably not. Just the fact that I think I could make better use of my space than growing melons, or maybe the Minnesota's mint. This Solanum quintoriensis, or Narangilla, started off with, well, I only sowed 3 seeds. They all germinated easily, gave one of the plants away. Still got the other 2 plants now tucked in the greenhouse in a 12 or 15-litre pot. They are slowly producing fruit. Whether they will fruit, I don't know, but it could be interesting because I don't know that they've ever grown and fruited in Essex. So, but amazing plant, just very spiteful. So that is the proper, started, grown at home. Then also grown for a good period of time at home were the peppers. They only got moved over at the middle of the year over to Allotment, which was about I think it must have been about July time, because it was after I'd lifted the garlic and onion. So anyway, so we started with 5 plants. Well, the numbers here. So chili shake, Carolina Reaper, mushroom red, yellow Scotch bonnet. So the yellow Scotch bonnet actually came from Sainsbury's shop bought Scotch bonnet. Saved the seed from that and then grew them from there. Long chili, Bucciolotti, Beja, which is a stuffing type one. Also had a Holy Peak plant, which probably should add on there. Bullhorn mix, Trinidad perfume, sweet banana, and some pointed red. The chili shake, so reliable. Long chili, or Joe's Long, again really reliable. They are the best, most reliable chilies that I grow. I don't think you'll go far wrong. Medium sort of heat, excellent in pretty much everything. Carolina Reapers, so second year of trying to grow them. This year they grew absolutely massive, 4 foot in height, produced a lot of fruit, but there wasn't loads that actually ripened. I did end up cutting about 1 foot off the plants in my quest to try and get them to ripen, but they are so hot, so I'm not sure whether I will grow them next year. Mushroom red, considering there's 5 plants planted, just been phenomenal in terms of yield. They are hot pepper, but just so good. And the green form is not as hot as when it goes red, but it's still very hot. The yellow Scotch bonnet, I think just given the size of them, I probably won't bother doing them again. Bucciolotti, again, produces absolutely loads and loads of fruit, but they are all sort of small. Well, I say small, about 2 inches in length. You get so much fruit that really you don't need more than 1 plant anyway. Beja, so that is more like a stuffing type pepper, and I've saved seed from that. So moving forward for next year, I'll probably use that in place of sweet banana, because the fruits are bigger and sweet banana is very nice, but there's not a lot you can do with it other than adding it into a salad or basic cooking and pickling. Whereas the Beja offers you the potential to do stuffing with it as well. Bullhorn mix, just again, it's a really great variety. Creates sort of some nice weird and wonderful shapes. really good flavour as well, but you can use it for stuffing so long as they're straight, but most of the time they do form typical bullhorn shape, so spirals. Trinidad perfume, got a slight kick to it, but actually it also has a really intriguing kind of perfume sweetness to it. So if you're using it in with a hotter pepper, then it does really help to cool it right down. Pointed Red, again, they were really good. Really good value for money in terms of a packet of seed, and I will definitely be using that or growing that variety next year. I think moving forward I probably will do a similar quantity, so I did 42, but similar quantity, but probably the mix will be different. Okay, so we're moving on to allotment. So a lot of this was started in the greenhouse or cold frame and then moved over. So I tried to put it into little groupings. So we've got beans, runner beans, broad beans, all the rest of it. So the broad beans, honestly can't remember the variety. They're in the packet downstairs. 12 plants were planted out. Best broad beans I've ever had, for a simple reason. I think I've learnt compared to previous years to harvest the beans at a more juvenile age or stage, so before the beans are sort of showing in the pods. In the past I've waited until you've had that sort of bulge in the pods before harvesting, whereas this year did it just as that was forming. Miles nicer, weren't so cardboard like. Grew 12 plants of each of these runner beans, which went over my pagoda. So I had Guinness record and White Lady. Well, I mean, it looked very impressive, but far too many beans for our use. Ended up picking a load of the beans and actually just giving them to the goats up at the farm. But it did look very nice. Right then, these, so I sowed the Bellotto beans and the French Cobra beans. Just did 6 plants of each and never got around to planting the things, so they got binned. And lesson learned on that really. I think just need to be a bit more focused and plan where things will be able to go, rather than growing stuff and then trying to find a space for it. Then the peas. So I grew the Sugar Snap peas and Kelvedon Wonder. So Sugar Snap peas designed just to literally eat straight off the plant. Kelvedon Wonder, or the normal peas, Kelvedon Wonder, for more for cooking with. So did a sowing of 12 of each, and the birds ate them. Did another sowing, 12 of each, and the slugs ate them, or might have been the other way around. So 24 of each, totally wasted. And then it was only in the back end of the summer, did another sowing, 12 and 12, sown direct into the ground, netted over the top, and we actually got a really good crop and harvested them middle of October, and they were amazing. Potatoes. So gave a whole bed over to growing potatoes. I chose to grow Twinners, which was a brand new variety this year from Taylor's. Did a 2 kilo bag worth of the seed potatoes of Twinners. It's the second early. Absolutely amazing. High yielding, good disease resistance, amazing flavour. We'll be growing it again without a shadow of a doubt and giving the whole bed over to it. Grew this Heritage Blue Salad main crop. Absolutely rubbish. The yield was pretty poor, and what came out were all the potatoes had scab. And actually, when you cook with it, it's a little bit off-putting to have a blue mashed potato or a blue chip. It kind of reminds me a little bit of having to eat liver or ox tongue when I was a kid, so really didn't like that. Okay, so we're on to my, squash etc. section, or cucurbits. So courgettes, planted 3, 1 got eaten basically straight away by the slugs and snails, so just left with the 2 of the green bush. Had absolutely loads of courgettes from those, and to be honest, most of them ended up growing so big, more like mini marrows, but we got through a lot, gave away absolutely loads of them. Courgette shooting star, first time growing it, 3 plants of that, absolutely amazing. Went through all the way through to the September period. Only kind of got stunted because they got powdery mildew, but yeah, it's so good. The only thing the only drawback with that is that it just sprawls all over the beds. So if I'm going to grow that again, then I might have to do some sort of climbing frame to keep it off, or to take up less space. Did marrow long green, not grown marrows for a long time, well, probably since I was a kid, and kind of forgot actually that I don't really like marrow, and in actual fact none of us really like marrow that much. My wife does a bit, but 3 plants of it, we had, I think there was 5 massive fruits, gave away 4, ate 1, so that kind of tells you something. Butternut squash hunter, so grew 5, planted out 4 because that's what fitted into the space, so the weakest one got binned. I think had 24 fruits from that, or 23 fruits, something like that, all of good size. Definitely going to grow more butternut squash again. The last couple of years I've grown it in containers and grown it in the ground, so good, miles better. Yukicuris, or the onion squash, again first time growing these ones, grew 5, planted 4, binned 1, going to definitely grow more of that. We've got loads of cured and they're being stored, some at the in the garage and some at the allotment. So good, really good for pretty much all types of cooking or stuffing or whatever. An amazing flavour to it as well, and quite good, almost like interchangeable with the butternut squash. Summer squash, or patty pans, grew 4 of those, very high yielding, but it's a little bit fiddly because size wise, kind of, what's that, 6-inch ish, and they're a little bit fiddly, and they're a bit bland in many respects, so probably won't bother growing them again. Might do, but probably not. Then on to pumpkins. So these were purely grown for pumpkins for Halloween. Also with the prospect of Deals Atlantic being a proper big boy for growing it really. So grew 5 of each, planted 2, binned the other 3, planted 3 Big Macs, binned the other 2. Out of the 5 plants we got 7 pumpkins, heaviest weighing in about 17.9 kilos, and they were growing at a really good rate early on until the heat hit in the June time, and then they just literally overnight coloured up, went orange, stopped growing, and that was kind of the end of that. So a bit disappointing, or very disappointing with the Deals Atlantic, but maybe next year will be better. So we move on. I did quite a lot of interplanting between sort of the longer cropping plants, and the interplanting then consisted of doing a lot of these bits and pieces. So did lines of carrot early Nantes, Amsterdam 2, I think, well, I don't know, early Nantes is probably nicer flavour but a bit smaller. because the allotment is a clay soil, they all came out stunted, but really good flavour. Parsnip, grew a lot of parsnips. We've only harvested about 5 plants. Again, stunted, multi-tap roots, but the actual tops on them, again, sort of, well, probably exaggeration, probably about 3 to 4 inches across. So heavy roots on them. And the ones that are still in the ground, so we're in November, but they're kind of keeping their own in the ground. You might as well keep them there. But well worth growing, but I think I have to do a designated area for them, for the parsnips next year, rather than doing intercropping, because the foliage just kind of spawls everywhere. Beetroot bolt hardy, as probably most people know, beetroot bolt hardy is just, well, so good. You can't really go wrong with it. Produces a good crop, good size vegetable, and I think everyone loves beetroot. You know, we've never had so many cakes using beetroot or roasted beetroot, but really good. Lettuce all year round, so I did a block of 12, and then in the summer late summer did another block of 12, and basically just were using the lettuce either for us or predominantly for the guinea pigs. Rocket, again mainly grown for the guinea pigs. Just did a batch of 12 of those for the start of the season. In actual fact, I have done another block of rocket which went in September, so there for the guinea pigs for a bit of autumn winter feed. Celery, first year of actually trying to grow it, never grown it before. Didn't earth it up because I thought I'd planted them deep enough. Definitely need to earth them up. Amazing flavour, but very strong flavour. Guinea pigs absolutely love it, but they're miles bigger than the supermarket ones, so you kind of find that I've lifted them and they just stick around for ages, so we used quite a lot in soups. Landcress, that was grown just for the guinea pigs. We've got 2 plants left over the allotment, but again, does so well. It's like watercress, but doesn't need the water as such, so really easy to grow. Fennel, first year growing the fennel, had plans that would grow it for sort of the bulb at the base and maybe some of the seed. So far they've put on loads of growth upwards. We've eaten some, but they haven't swelled to the base like intended, so I'm hoping that next year they will do a bit more. Just noticed as well pak choy. So pak choy, we did a block of 12 of those. Really good. I've never grown pak choy before, but I was surprised at how quickly it bulked up, how easy it was, and I have actually done another 12 plants of that since. So that'd be good for the autumn winter. Aubergine Black Beauty, grew that really for my wife because I hate it. Thankfully, in some respects, the slugs ate all 6 plants, so that was wasted. The spinach Amelia, first 6 plants were wasted. The slugs devoured those. Then the following, well, I did another planting of 6, and well, basically they bolted, so they weren't particularly good either. Which leads me to perpetual spinach. Perpetual spinach is just so easy, produces so much leaf, so much growth, is really easy to use as well. So use it exactly the same way as that. It's not quite as sweet as what you'd call a proper spinach, but certainly for growing and using and having for over winter, you won't go wrong. Right, cabbage Durham early, grew 12, still got some growing over there. Then we've grown some other ones as well. So these 4, they went in again in the late season, so they will grow and they'll be for picking over winter and into spring. Turnip Snowball, yeah, grew 8, 6 got well destroyed basically by thrip, so left us with 2, and they were less than inspiring, so won't bother with that again for next year. Swiss chard bright lights, grew a block of 8. Really good. I mean, I love Swiss chard. It's so good. It's kind of interchangeable between using that in place of a cabbage or that in place of a spinach. Use it in your well, pretty much any cooking. Your roast or whatever. Add in a good bit of colour, or Chinese, stir fries and that sort of thing. So we did an 8 of that. And the guinea pigs like it as well. And then I've done, again, another late September planting on that, which will take us through the winter time. Kohlrabi, did a block of 8. Again, really good. Probably, if anything, I probably planted them in the wrong spot because they did get swamped by the Swiss chard. Then I've done another 4, which we picked at slightly more juvenile stage, which were really good. Calabrese Aquilise. Grew 12 of those, were so good. Only downside was that, again, just as they were bulking up, we had the heat came on, and so we had about 4 or 5 of the good heads that we'd eaten, and then the others just started bolting. So took the heads out and ended up with just like the little sprouts on them, which were nice and tasty. Broccoli, early purple, sprouting, kind of a waste of time, to be honest. They got a bit of thrip, then they got aphid, and then they succumbed to the heat, so they took up a lot of space and were absolute waste of time, really, which was a shame. But maybe next year be different. Kale Cavolo Nero. Always bang on about this. This is one of our favourites as a family, either using as a roasted or actually cooked, so it dries out, and use it a bit like, making it crispy kale. 24 plants of that, planted early season, and we're still picking them now. Difference being is that we pick the lower leaves. I've mentioned it in multiple allotment tours. We pick the lower leaves as and when needed across the plants, and so the plant just keeps growing up and up and makes this little tree. And it just means that you got it for the whole season, rather than a lot of people grow it and cut it at a juvenile stage and then that's it, job done, you got to keep sowing. Kale dwarf curled, so that was a sort of summer into autumn sowing. Again, really, that is designed that will give us some kale for winter into spring period. Nasturtium Phoenix, did 2 blocks of that, 12 and 12. Some of those got planted into our hanging pots that were at the allotment, and some of it was just planted around the areas and at home, really for a bit of companion planting to attract the bees and butterflies, but also the guinea pigs love the leaves. Right, then we move on. God, there's a lot of stuff. Leek Musselburgh. After 2 years of being really good, I chose to obviously grow them direct into the ground, and they were terrible. They've ended up basically size of like spring onions, rust, and just pointless. So next year need to grow them by themselves, grow them properly. Not quite sure. I need to have a rethink as to doing them. The Welsh onions grew really well, and then they did succumb to leaf spot, or rust I should say, so I whipped them out. Had those. Spring onion Lisbon, I just don't think you can go wrong with Lisbon. So reliable, so easy, just fantastic. Right, radishes. So grew best ever radishes this year, miles better than we've had before. So it grew a lot of Scarlet Globe. They were so good. French breakfast, which they're all right. They tend to grow really quick, and then if you leave them a little bit too long or the weather's not right, then they're a bit woody. And then this question mark one, actually it was a multicoloured one, which they're all right, more for novelty I think. learn flavour. Sweet corn, mini pop, 20 plants of those, did really well. If anything, left them a bit too long and they weren't as sweet as they could have been, but very nice. Glass gem for popcorn, just drying that at the moment, so we'll see whether that was worth the wait. Onions, so senchu, which is a Japanese onion, did 50 of those. Really good onion, love it. Going to grow more of that. Electric, which is a red onion, 50 of those. Did really well. Bit erratic in size, but really nice. Bedfordshire Champion, did 50 of those. Got some really big onions from that, well worth it. Did a late planting of snowball, absolutely pointless. Didn't really make a lot of size, so won't bother with those again. Garlic, so I had some Marco saved from 2021, so I planted 18 of those. They're pretty good. It's got a good flavour to it, but they're not the biggest in the world. Elephant garlic, which I know is not a garlic, it's more a leek. I've lost track as to how many I planted, but we've got a lot more now than we did have last year, and I'm going to bulk it up again for next year. So other garlics, early purple white, 12 planted. Carcinone white, 6 planted, of which 2 rotted, so that left me with 4. Red Duke, got 6 planted. Valido, 6. Topodrome, 6 planted. Some more Marco, planted at a later stage, so I planted some in the autumn, some in the spring. Albercian white, again just 6 planted. So the ones where there were 6s, I actually bought those from a vegetable seller on eBay, only really because at that point in time I couldn't get garlic from anywhere else and I wanted to bulk up some numbers. But this year I've purposely sourced some varieties that I want, and I will use some of my own. And that, I suppose, concludes what I've done for this year. So my plan for next year, well, what I've done so far for this year, I should say. So in the existing plot, onions, I've got 200 Autumn Champion. They're planted at the moment. Senchu, I've got 100, still got to plant them. Red Winter in place of the electric. So Red Winter, I'm hoping will be a more balanced, more reliable red onion than electric. Got 100 of those. Garlics, I'm going to, well, I say I've added in Germador again because I just love Germador. I've bought some Carcassonne white just to, well, hopefully get a better strain than what I did have. Albercian white will be saved from what I've got already, as will the early purple white. So I'm going to do a whole bed of garlic by itself this year, and then I'm also going to do a second bed of garlic, which will be for selling on to the people who own the land. So then already planted out on the plot, should add a rocket to that really, shouldn't I? Already planted, got some cauliflower all year round, some cabbage, Durham early, the pak choy and rocket, and that is where we're at for this year. Whoa, that seems like a lot. Yeah, going through that list, it's yeah, there's definitely, well, not a lot of failures, there's definitely some failures, some lesson learned. And now I've gone through the list, I kind of realised why I was tired and stressed all the time about trying to get all the planting done. So moving forward for 2023, I'm definitely going to be a little bit more organised and focused, and rather than planting well, rather than planting in certain ways, what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant up my bed slightly differently in terms of longevity, I think. So I will definitely do some, I'm going to do my specific onion beds, my specific garlic beds, and then the brassicas, so things that are going to be planted for being in the ground for longer, a longer period of time. And then I think I'll probably just keep a couple of beds that will then be quick turnover stuff. So things like the radishes, the spring onions, the carrots, and rocket, that sort of thing. Rather than trying to do so much intercropping. Intercropping has worked on some of it, but the reality has also been that a lot of the smaller stuff has got swamped. And I think by growing leeks separately and chard separately and things, I'll be able to get on top of things. And I think probably also try and be a little bit more ruthless. So if things aren't working, whip them out, start on something different. Have a bit more of a check on the slugs as well. But we shall see, because next year, although I have my current allotment for a bit, we're going to have to move allotments. Not really looking forward to that. So what my current allotment I can plant now, and I can plant to the end of I think it's until the end of February, and then no more planting, with the view that the newer allotments that have been built will be for planting permanently after that. So there's going to be a lot of work, but we shall see. So anyway, that is where I'm at with my book. I've already bought loads of seeds as well, so I need to get that all written down, try and develop a bit of a plan, and then I reckon the start of next year, or maybe, well, I don't know, maybe December, we might have another sit down as to what I'm planning. But anyway, if you've got any questions, then why don't you send something over to me? Be good to have a little chat about different ideas or thoughts. If you do like what I'm doing, then please subscribe to the channel. It's always nice to have more people coming on board and taking an interest in what I'm doing and what others are doing. Don't forget to hit that reminder button so you don't miss out on the future videos I'm doing. But more importantly, and I always say it, just enjoy what you're doing, have fun, and a little bit like me, do a bit of experimenting, try growing some crops that you haven't done before. So until next time, bye for now.